currently on the phone with Nick Kitchen. He's another musician that reached out about the current interview sessions. So I'm going to go ahead and give him the chance to introduce himself.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Love the opportunity to get to chat with you a little bit about some music stuff today. Like you said, my name is Nick. I'm a singer-songwriter slash frontman from St. Louis, Missouri. I've been active in music for about 30 years or so, in all kinds of different formats and configurations and everything. The last several years, I've been more involved in doing my own personal original music and have been working on some projects in that vein of things as well.
Sure. Well, let's go into some details about that. Tell me about when you first connected with music. Tell me about, the details surrounding you deciding that you wanted to pursue music as a part of your life.
Yeah. So, and I know for a lot of singers, because I'm primarily a singer. I do play guitar and bass a little, but you won't see me doing it on stage probably ever. But like most singers around, Midwest and even the South, I kind of got into music through church growing up, and got involved with some of the yearly Christmas music kind of things, and then that sort of opened up an opportunity to be a little more involved with music at church. And on the side of that, I was also getting into all of the bands and everything that have kind of influenced, my particular taste and the kind of things I like to listen to.
Sure. So give me a little bit of detail about what you mean by you got into music by the church. Were you part of like the church choir, or was it one of those like rock band churches where they have, a full like lineup of a rock band singing Jesus songs? Give me some detail about that.
Yeah. So initially it was a bit more like, like a Christmas musical or that kind of thing. And then that kind of transitioned into singing other people's songs in church as for like special music, kind of being the featured vocalist or whatever. And then towards the end, as I got to get ready to go to college, it did kind of transition a little bit into that kind of rock situation where, there were instruments on stage and singing songs that the older people in the congregation didn't necessarily like too much.
Sure. When you went to college, did you pursue like a music degree, or was that unrelated?
I started, I was pretty ambitious when I started college. I was going to double major. I found out about 6 months into my college experience that was not going to happen. But at the beginning, I did start out as a double major with music and education, I think.
So how did you kind of keep engaged with music outside of college and then outside of church? Or did the church thing continue?
The church thing has been something that's been part of my story as far as music goes, like even to present. Like there's been very few time periods in my life where there wasn't some aspect of that going on. But after I got out of college, I started getting into songwriting for the first time, and started to do, a couple, tried to get some of my original music out.
Okay. And would you consider your original music to be secular music, or what did it still kind of fall in line with church music?
Initially it was church music. It bordered. I mean, it would probably be more classified under church, I think, at the beginning. Certainly it's quite different now, but
Sure. So yeah, tell me about that progression of going from, working on kind of church music and then developing your own original stuff. How did you kind of figure out the stuff that you actually did want to write about?
Man, I think the key to that is, when you're in your early 20s and stuff, you really don't have much of a grasp of what life is really like and what you're going to get into. And so I think the best way to answer that is to say that life happened. I went through quite a few different relationship kind of things, and you know, the marriage is falling apart, that kind of thing, and um, had some illness and death in the family, and that kind of stuff. Man, I mean, once you start you can't really have something to write about until you really been through something, I think. I mean, you can write, but you don't necessarily, you don't know what you're speaking about necessarily. You know what I mean?
Right. So it sounds like you kind of use the opportunity of your solo stuff to kind of tell some stories about the events that you've been through to kind of do some cathartic healing by getting it off your chest.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And then are you like self-producing that music, or are you working with somebody else to record it?
So it's been a bit of a hybrid. As of last month, I've released three full original music albums at this point, in as many years. The first album and this one I just finished, I self-produced and did all of the majority of the mixing and mastering by myself, and recording for that matter. The album from 2023 that's kind of in the middle of that, I actually crowdfunded with a studio out of Boston, and a commercial studio, and ended up going up there a couple times to record, and that's how that album got kind of pushed out. So it's been a mix of me trying to fumble and learn and do things myself, as well as working with some seasoned producers and engineers.
Sure. It's definitely a learning process.
It is.
Do you have like a particular release cadence that you like to stick to, or do you kind of just write the songs and then it all comes out when it comes out kind of thing?
Uh, it started out to not have much of a cadence. I put a couple songs out, and then I decided, well, maybe I should, do something with collect them. So that's when I started, trying to put an entire album together. Um, since then, it seems like, and I haven't quite put my finger on how it has wound up this way, but it seems like November is kind of the month for releasing albums for me at this point. Like, there's singles throughout the year, but generally speaking, the last 3 years I've had a different album out by the end of November.
Awesome. That's pretty consistent. So where do you kind of see all this going? What would be your ideal goals for, 5 or 10 years from now?
Yeah. So I think primarily, what I think the reason any of us get into music is, at least for me, it's, I want to make music that matters. And what I mean by that is, when someone hears it, I want it to impact them in some kind of way. Now, whether that's, getting sad because it reminded them of a breakup or someone they've lost, or encouraged by realizing that other people have gone through the same kind of things, whatever that expression that they take away from it, I want my music to impact people emotionally in that kind of way. So yeah, I guess, right now I'm working on, I'm still working on some of this solo stuff, but I'm also writing with a friend on a more of a hard rock kind of project, which will have its own band name and all of that. And the other thing that I'm kind of really getting into now is like actually doing the work to get in and learn the engineering and the production and proper mastering techniques and all of that, so that not only so that I can help myself, because obviously if you can do it yourself, you save yourself money, because music is expensive. um, but also because I think I'm starting to develop an ear for some of it, and I'd like to be able to do not just my music, but venture out and to work with other artists on their music as well.
Sure, absolutely. So give me a bit of detail about what sort of things you draw on to stay motivated. You've mentioned that you're consistently putting music out. You have this ambition to learn more about engineering. You're picking up writing with other musicians in different genres. What do you feel kind of keeps you in the saddle and motivated to continue?
Honestly, man, it just comes back down to music being probably one of the most things I'm passionate about. If I'm not, because if I'm not writing, I'm constantly listening to other people's music. There's just that's where I find inspiration. It's where I find well, it's how I process things, I guess. I think in song lyrics 90% of the time. So I draw. So I guess to answer the question is, I really kind of draw from that passion for music in any aspect, whether it's something I'm actively involved in or something that I'm passively listening to. Because music makes an impact on me, both mentally and emotionally, and so knowing the impact that music has had on my life, it makes me want to work harder to try and have that same kind of impact on other people who need that.
Sure, sort of give back in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So where can people find the stuff that you're releasing and that you'll be working on in the future?
Yeah, so everything I've got, the last three albums are all on the major platforms, and Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon, under Nick Kitchen is the artist name. And you can find more info on that on the different social media places like Instagram and Facebook. And my username at all those places is the Nick Kitchen. So it's pretty easy to track me down.
All right. Well, I always like to give the person I'm interviewing the opportunity to put out their last word. So what's a message that you have that you want other people to hear?
Yeah, I guess be patient with each other is the thing. Life is kind of nuts right now. And people have a lot of different opinions about all kinds of different things. And I think it's important just to remember that we need to be patient with each other and show each other grace, whatever the scenario is.